Gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Boca Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Holritz. For those of you that may be live streaming with us today, happy Monday to you. Hope you had a great weekend. We're off to a strong start this week, and I appreciate you joining us for the live stream. For those of you that are live streaming with us, make sure to take advantage of the opportunity to ask questions, comment, engage with myself and our brand new guests, who I'll introduce here in just a second. Take advantage of the opportunity here with these live streams to really dig into the conversation at hand. We're touching on one today that we haven't actually spent much time on. And again, we'll introduce that in just a second. The show is produced by Photographers Edit, custom editing for professional photographers. We're about to hit busy season. Make sure that you go check out photographersedit.com for your custom editing needs. All right, on that note, I want to introduce a brand new guest to the Boca Podcast, Misha Guseynov. Did I do that right, Misha? Is it close?
Yes, you did.
Okay. I appreciate you doing the show with me today. I say this sometimes to guests who have maybe slightly more complicated last names. Mine's not altogether that complicated, but it's been butchered left and right over my lifetime. So I understand what it's like to have a slightly difficult last name to pronounce. Thanks for bearing with me. And thanks for doing the show today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's a huge honor. A couple of my friends did this show, and just to be here, share a couple of nuggets of value with other photographers and videographers already means a lot to me.
Well, we had the opportunity to connect just briefly at Jordan Kress's workshop here in Chattanooga. What's about 2 months ago? No, 3 months ago now. It's been a little bit.
Time flies.
It does. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. But I appreciate your willingness to come and do the show. And truly, I'm kind of geeking out a little bit because this is a topic. We're going to talk today about how to get reviews and ultimately leverage reviews for the sake of building business. It may seem like an obvious topic, but honestly, we haven't spent a lot of time on the topic here at the Boca Podcast. And you're an anomaly as well. And I'll just throw this little tidbit out to kind of a teaser of sorts. But for those of you listening in or watching, Misha's had over 500 reviews in the last less than 3 years, which, I mean, that'd be impressive for a company that was maybe in business for 10 years. You've done this in less than 3 years, which is super impressive. So we're going to dig into how you've done that, how you've been able to leverage that, and then share that information with our listeners.
Absolutely. Didn't know that I'm an anomaly, but I guess I stand out in one way, and I'd be more than happy to share any tips and tricks on how to make it happen and how it can actually affect your business.
Perfect. Well, and then for those of you that are listening in that don't know Misha, I'm going to pull this up here on screen, but if you go to QM, as in quality media, qmweddings.com, you can check out his work there. And then on Instagram, it is, and we'll pull this up here, there you go, Quality Media Florida, just like it sounds, on Instagram. And of course, we'll link to both of these in the show notes at bocapodcast.com. But Misha, before we get into that topic around reviews, there's an ongoing question I've been asking our guests about time management, efficiency. This podcast is ultimately about helping photographers build sustainable businesses in which they don't get burnt out. They can actually have a life, some freedom, some flexibility. And so to that end, I'm curious, is there a big idea that's enabled you, despite having a successful business and a busy one at that, obviously, to maintain some level of freedom and flexibility as an entrepreneur?
Actually, can you repeat the question one more time? You mentioned a couple of things that...
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about time management. You're running a business, right? And and it's a successful one at that. You're staying busy with it. So I'm curious, is there an idea or a principle that's enabled you to manage your time effectively so that you can run your business efficiently and still have time at the end of the day to do something besides work?
Yeah, so what I realized, just like any photographer and videographer, when I first started, I was doing everything on my own, and I just tried to keep the ship as tight as possible. But lately, as of, I would say, a couple of months, maybe somewhat close to a year, I realized that if I want to grow my business, I need to involve more people. I do have a dedicated video editor on my team. I'm more of a videographer than a photographer. Let's say I'm 60% videographer and 40% photographer, just because I enjoy it a bit more. And he makes my life so much easier. I just started having much more time closing leads, figuring out new ways to find leads, and even concentrate on something that is my strength, which is communication and customer experience management. And I'm actually doing something similar with my photography part of the business as well. I have a person who edits my photos, but lately I've realized that my photography editor has a bit of a different style from my style, and I'm actually very excited and curious to try your brand because
cool.
you have many people who work for you and they are adjustable to the photographer's needs. That's what you told me, and that's what I saw on the website. And I'm actually shooting a wedding later this week, and I'm going to test your business out. And I've heard nothing but good things about it. And once again, it's going to make my life so much easier because this is a couple of hours, easily 4 to 7 hours of my life that I'm going to get back, and I could either concentrate on either grow my business in other areas or just be as lazy as I can and binge watch some TV shows while the work is getting done for a reasonable price.
That's it. Well, that's the cool thing is that it does give us some of that flexibility to do what we want to. But I want to, and first of all, I appreciate the shout out to Photographers Edit. For anybody who's curious, photographersedit.com. I'll just pop that up on the screen. That was very kind of you, Misha, to give us a shout out. And certainly I hope that we have the opportunity to work together. But you make a really interesting point. Photographers Edit represents this idea, which is the importance of building a team. The reality is that we can only do so much on our own. And so at the end of the day, taking advantage of the opportunity to leverage other resources, hiring in-house staff, hiring third-party companies to help us manage our business. It enables us to do exactly what you were talking about, to focus on closing leads, building your business, and also to have some freedom at the end of the day. I think it's a wonderful balance that you described.
Yeah, and I also, while you were saying that, I realized that a lot of people, including myself, in my head, I have a hard time letting somebody else do my work because I'm a bit of a control freak. And
Same.
I'm sure I'm not alone. And for people who are having reservations about trying Photographers Edits, I haven't tried your business yet, let's be clear. Haven't tried your editors to edit my work, but I try to build a fail-safe system where even if I don't like how the photos will be edited, I have some kind of a plan B in mind where if it doesn't work out, I either go to somebody else or I have enough time to edit the photos on my own. That's what I've tried with the videography side of my business. I actually edited the video on my own for my wedding clients, and then I went on a couple different websites and I found about a dozen of videographers, and out of that dozen, only about 6 or 7 replied. Out of that 6 or 7 who replied, about 4 or 5 actually wanted to try and edit something for me, and out of those 4 or 5 I found that one who I'm sticking to, and I value him a lot because he's making my life much easier. So what I'm trying to say, if you're a bit of a control freak just like I am, come up with a plan B, and if it doesn't work out, you still feel confident in being able to get your work done. So
that's
I'm
actually
sure
great
it's going to
advice.
work out. But
No, that's great advice, actually. And it's not something that I've heard a lot of guests on the show talk about, having the plan Bs and Cs in place to make sure that ultimately your business doesn't falter, right? Now, the flip side of that conversation, and knowing that you have systems in place, I think you're going to be in an advantage with the idea of delegating editing work to Photographers Edit because you know what you want, right? So I think a lot of times photographers, whether they're delegating editing work or album design or administrative tasks, where the struggles are is the photographer's not clear about what they want. And because they're not clear about what they want, then they have a hard time communicating what they want to us or to an album design company or to an administrative assistant because they're not clear about that. So as long as you're clear about what you want, or the photographers listening are clear about what they want, when they go to delegate that thing, then it's easier to communicate that thing to that company or that individual. And it makes for a much better working relationship. And we have a really great system at Photographers Edit that allows you to communicate, share your style. Our team takes that information, processes your images for you. And then we also have built a really great system for feedback. So you may get an order back and you say, hey, this looks really great, but maybe the contrast needs to be adjusted here a little bit, or the white balance is maybe a little bit too cool here. Very easy to give us feedback, and our team can make adjustments. and you're not spending time, hours going back and correcting. And then we learn your editing style more effectively, and we get better in a working relationship. So it's a win-win in the end.
And one thing I do want to mention about Photographer's Edit, what actually sold me on giving you guys a try, is that your delivery time is only about a week or so. Correct me if I'm wrong,
even
but
less.
it's crazy, wicked fast. And even for some reason I don't like the edits, I have enough time to reach back to you and mention what I need changed, and I'll still be able to deliver the photos within a 2-week window,
sure.
if I communicate clearly with you, from my understanding.
For sure. Yeah, 3 to 5 business days actually is our turnaround time. And actually even lately it's been even less than that. So we're definitely on top of it. We'll take good care of you. And again, I appreciate you being willing to discuss Photographer's Edit. For those of you listening in, you're like, Nathan, you're just setting this up to be a Photographer's Edit commercial. Not my intention. Misha was very kind to bring that up. And I hope that the conversation for those of you listening in was helpful, not just as it relates to delegating editing, but delegating in general. It's important to be clear about what it is that we want and then communicate that clearly as a result with those that we're working with. I want to move on to the conversation though, Misha, around getting reviews. And you are an anomaly. I mean, I'm fascinated. I don't think I've ever heard of a photographer who has over 500 reviews, and especially in such a short amount of time. These reviews, are they primarily on Google, or what platforms are you getting the reviews on?
Google is, I would say my Google account has the most reviews. Okay. About maybe 3/4, 2/3 of all of my reviews are on Google. Another huge portion of reviews is on the website called Thumbtack. I want to say on Google I have a bit under around 280 reviews right now. On Thumbtack I have about 200 plus reviews. Okay. And then I have a bunch of websites which I don't really pay attention that much to anymore, like the Wedding Wire, the Knot, Yelp even. And then there are a couple of smaller wedding websites like Zola. I think I have a couple of reviews there, but I really pay no attention to those sites. I really try to concentrate on Google and Thumbtack, because Thumbtack drives lots of business for my company as well.
And I know this is a whole topic in and of itself, so we won't stay here very long, but I'm very interested in the fact that you've been able to have so much success in Thumbtack. Again, I've not heard photographers talking about the platform very much. Is there, what led you to that platform? Why have you been able to have so much success specifically there?
Desperate to make money, just like most other photographers and videographers.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if my story is going to be similar to everyone else's story, but when I was starting my business, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My goal is to just pay my bills, and I tried pretty much everything. I feel like you're not a professional unless you get scammed into the Wedding Wire and the Knot for a year. Okay. And then I tried Thumbtack. I think I gave Bark a try. I tried Zola. And then maybe there's a couple of other lead generation sites which I tried, and out of all of them, Thumbtack has been delivering nonstop. For those of you who don't know how Thumbtack works, I really like their system. You pay per lead. You don't pay a monthly fee, and it doesn't matter if you get 5 leads or 20 leads, you pay one fee. You pay per lead, which can range from $10 to $80 for bigger jobs. And $80 may sound like a lot, but it's mostly 8-hour weddings, for which I charge anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000, depending on what my clients want. And in the grand slam of things, I think that's the phrase. Grand scheme of things. Thank you very much. It's a Monday, guys, and I'm still not feeling 100%. I'm like Garfield. I'm the laziest person you meet, and I will work really hard to be able to stay lazy. So I'll work nonstop just to be able to be able to stay lazy. But long story short, I just like how it works, and it's been delivering. If the truth is, if Thumbtack was not delivering, I would cut it, just like I cut the Wedding Wire and the Knot after the year. But they're being great to me. Granted, I don't get the ideal client quite often, but I get good paying clients, and actually Thumbtack has allowed me to create an associate team, because lots of leads on Thumbtack, they are very budget concerned, and I personally, since I'm a lazy person, I would not want to go out and perform a job if it doesn't pay me an a number of dollars, but I built a team and of amazing photographers and videographers, and they are willing to go and perform that job for that amount of money, and I get paid a commission for that job. So I make a bit of money. I offer and provide job opportunities to my photographers, and Thumbtack is also happy because they're getting paid off me. So I feel like that's a bit of a synergy. But maybe eventually I'll start some kind of a course where I describe how to become successful in Thumbtack and run the steps. But one advice I'll give you about Thumbtack, if you're not seeing results, don't get stressed out, because that's how it works. Sometimes there will be 5 leads in a row which hit, and then there will be 5 leads in a row which won't hit, and you will end up spending $100, $200, and you'll hate yourself. You'll think it's the worst decision ever, but then bam, there's another lead that hired you. So it just comes and goes, just like everything else in this business. But I feel like I went on the rant, so yeah.
No, it's fine. But I was going to say it's very similar. What you're describing with Thumbtack, I think, is kind of the case with business in general. We can't expect that it's always going to be easy. Sometimes there are kind of dead spells, and other times things come alive, and you get lead after lead and customer after customer. We have to be patient as business owners. That's also a reminder for myself, by the way. We're getting ready to launch a new company, and I know that those innate challenges are going to be there, and it's going to take a lot of work to get it off the ground, but we do have to be patient. And that's really important. So I'm glad that you highlight that too. But when we're talking about 500 plus reviews in such a short amount of time, of course, that begs the question, A, what are you doing to get these reviews? This is amazing. B, how are you getting clients to actually take the time to make the reviews? My assumption always is just that people don't have the time or don't care to take the time. So I'm impressed by that. And then 3, ultimately, how you're leveraging that to build your business. So we're going to kind of take each of these point by point. Let's start first with the customer experience that is garnering this kind of response from your clients in such a short amount of time. It's got to be really, really incredible. You actually talked to me, we were talking beforehand, and you pointed out kind of 2 ideas that's driving your customer experience. One was communication, and the second was quality. And you said something interesting to me, which I want to highlight here because I think it's important. You said people think that, well, that's obvious, communication and quality. These are 2 kind of so-called quote unquote obvious ideas, but you have a business right here, which is an anomaly in that you're getting these kinds of reviews. So it seems like your focus on these 2 big ideas actually really is important. And maybe photographers need to pay more attention to these ideas.
Well, quality is pretty straightforward. If you don't provide quality service, people are not going to be sharing your business with their friends and family. And it's in the name of my company. I go above and beyond to make sure that people receive the absolute best quality they can. And that's one of the reasons why I probably will separate my ways with my current photo editor, because they have a bit of a different style, and I feel like that's not the absolute best quality my team can provide. So I am really, really hammering. That's probably one of my strengths, management in general, and eventually down the line, I see myself not even working as a photographer or videographer, but just managing the teams, just because that's my strength. And so I really do my absolute best to make sure that quality is there. Now, communication is something that, once again, you said it's pretty straightforward, but sometimes it's not. I'll give you a bit of a background about me. I did Toastmasters for a while, about 5 years. I was rated top 5 public speaker in South Florida, and I was also getting my master's in communication. So communication is really important for me, and it's probably one of the natural gifts that I have, talking to people and making them feel comfortable and just making sure they have a good experience. The way I position my company is not that I'm a photography and videography company. I am a customer service company that just happens to do photography and videography. My job is to make sure that you, as my client, are having the best time of your life. Meaning that when you're planning your wedding, the one thing you don't need to worry about is photography and videography. I'll take care of everything. I will explain everything. I'll recommend you vendors. I will grab dinner with you, go out for lunch with you, because I do try to create a relationship with people I work with. And That's just how I position myself. Am I the best photographer and videographer in the world? No. And do I make mistakes? Yeah. But my clients tend to overlook those tiny errors or little imperfections in my business and myself simply because they're having a good time with me. And that's what I put in the heart of my business. And most of the time, people actually appreciate that I'm a human being as well, that I'm not being too salesy, I'm being real with them. Sometimes when I'm feeling tired, I'm a bit salesy, but I'm actually trying to recognize that I'm saying, you know what, guys, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I don't want to be too salesy. I'm just trying to provide as much value, and they appreciate that honesty. So try to be as honest as possible. And one of the rules that I do try to follow is to respond to an inquiry within 24 hours. And this inquiry can be from an existing client, from a potential lead. Within 24 hours, try to make it 12, even less. Either shoot them a text, give them a call. The reason I'm so successful with Thumbtack is because I reach out to the leads immediately, and one benefit of Thumbtack is that they provide a legit phone number of the lead, so you can give them a call. And that's what I do. I message them on Thumbtack and I immediately give them a call. And I recently realized that most people book me and I'm not the least expensive option. They book me to be their photographer or videographers because I make it easy for them. They don't need to go through a bunch of options. They don't need to figure it out to see which one is better, why I may be better than other businesses. Well, if you're on a budget, you might be doing that kind of work, but for people for whom money is not a concern, but their time saved is, I am the perfect vendor because I reach out to them. I immediately draw a game plan for them of how I will get things done for them. And also I try to make it a pleasant experience for them. Basically, I just tell them, I will require you to do minimal work on your part. I will come in, I'll get the job done. If it's a wedding, I'm going to guide you and pose you. Oh, you don't want me to be visible? I'll be like a ninja, you're not going to see me. Or if it's a real estate shoot, which I do those on the side as well, some people ask me lots of questions and I tell them, don't you worry, go on my portfolio, take a quick look. I'll always be here for you. The delivery time is wicked fast, just like photographers at it. And yeah, I just try to make the experience as pleasant as possible, and I also try to find out what their pain points are. Do they need to have their delivery quickly? Do they not care if I take 2 months to deliver, but the quality matters to them the most? Or do they care about not seeing me throughout their wedding so I don't annoy them with my camera? Because I do get lots of clients who say, hey, we're just trying to have a good time, and somebody just to capture the day which we can recall later in life. So once again, if you want to follow my footsteps, try to build your business as a customer service business that offers photography and videography services, or just photography services, or just videography services.
That's interesting, and I love how you frame that. And so I wrote down 2 points before we started today: communication and quality. But I would add to that experience, the overall experience that you're creating for these customers. You're trying to create the best possible experience via photography, the vehicle of photography, delivering a quality product. And I know that's a bit of a subjective thing, but when you say quality, are you talking about the quality of the finished video or the finished images that are being delivered, or is there more underneath that idea of quality?
That's actually a good question. I just thought about it for the first time 2 seconds ago while you were asking this question. Obviously, the finished product needs to be of the highest quality, but it's the quality experience as well. Basically, everything I said a couple of seconds ago, I'm not going to repeat it just to save the time. Just offer a quality experience, whatever that means to your client. And one way you find out what matters the most to them is by talking to them. So I talk to them, I discover what their desires are, and I try to hit those points. And guess what? On top of that, I provide quality service, and you will get quality results. Because in some cases, people don't even know what videography is, wedding videography. They have no idea. And that's not a bad thing. And it's my job to educate them. And if they don't want to be educated, I just tell them, don't worry, Misha got you. And Yeah, and I just deliver beautiful films to them, and they honestly have no idea what they're gonna get. I do put it down in the contract, but I feel like some of my clients just sign the contract blindly because I've spent hours talking to them one way or another, and they just feel so comfortable. And then it comes as a surprise that instead of one wedding film, they get 3 different films, and they're excited there as well. And I try to ride that wave when when I see clients being excited. That's when I remind them to leave me a review. When they reach out to me saying, Misha, these videos are great, I reach out to them saying, well, thank you for the opportunity to capture your wedding day, and I'm very happy that you guys are happy. If you guys have a moment of your time to leave me a 5-star review, it would mean the world to me. And we can jump into this topic later on, how to ask for reviews and whatnot, but I have a couple of things to mention about that too.
Yeah, well, I think this is a good segue. So just to kind of review for everybody listening and watching, the kind of the 3 ideas that are driving this experience that have led to all these reviews that you're getting from your clients. 1, it starts with communication. Quick, thorough communication that manages the expectations of your clients really, really well. You're delivering then a quality experience and quality images or video along with that. And I mean, again, this all seems kind of obvious, but I think it's good that we have these conversations to review the significance of this, because it can be very easy as business owners, especially if we've been in it for a little while, to get a little bit lazy, not even intentionally, right? But we just we don't go that extra mile that you're describing. Make the extra effort, bring extra energy to the conversations, work a little bit more to manage the expectations of our clients. So I think it's important that we bring up these points, and I appreciate you sharing those. So yeah, that naturally then brings us, so you've created this experience that lead to these reviews. But then the next kind of natural question, the segue to the next question is, how then do you encourage these clients to leave you the reviews? And you shared 2 ideas before we get started, and you've kind of touched on this a little bit as well. But 1, you said expectations management, and then 2 is just a reminder after the fact. I would even add a 3rd one to that, which you just described, which is just deliver such a good experience that they can't help but want to go share the review. But let's start with expectations management. You're having a conversation with your clients before you even photograph them to let them know that this is part of your workflow?
Which, leaving the review or?
Yeah, leaving the review.
I try to thread carefully because I never know what kind of a client I'm going to get, what kind of an experience they're going to get. Even if earlier in my career, I would give 100% of my effort to people who wouldn't even care about it. Or in my short career in this industry, I have 1-star review, and that has taught me a lot. And we can talk about it, how to deal with negative reviews as well. But I'm really careful assessing the situation. From time to time, I may notify people to leave a review before we even do any kind of work. But usually I wait until the day off.
Okay.
When I'm performing the job, and I get them excited. And when I get, what do you call it? When I see my clients getting excited about my work or they're engaging in a conversation, that's when I'm going to jump in and I'll let them know early. I'm already putting it in their head that listen, reviews are very important for Misha. Please leave me a review. Please leave him a review if he does a good job. And that's what I literally say. I show them the progress of my work on the day off. And if I see them being excited, I'll tell them, hey, if you like what I'm doing, if you like the finished product, please consider me leaving a 5-star review. And throughout the journey from there on, I will mention a couple more times, I'll actually ask him a couple more times to leave me a review. The first time I would touch on that would be when we're performing the job. The second time would be right after I deliver the job. And if I see them not leaving a review, that means that they have probably forgotten, and I remind them a couple of weeks later. And believe it or not, I've had all sorts of scenarios. I've had people whom I haven't asked to leave a review, and their whole families would leave me 5-star reviews. And then I've had clients who have told me that I've done an exceptional job, and I've requested to leave reviews multiple times, and they still haven't. So once again, just like in the business with leads and book-in clients. It just comes and goes. You just do the absolute best you can, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And what I've realized in the end, it all balances out with the reviews. Because, for example, this past weekend I did a graduation party. I've shot a graduation party, and the girl was so excited about my services and the way I've communicated with everyone and just had a good time with everyone, that she, her best friend, and her boyfriend have already left me reviews, and I still haven't delivered anything to them, which is an anomaly. But it does happen as well, and I did mention to her once. Actually, what I like doing is offering little extras to my clients, and I asked them to leave a review in return. In her case, she asked if I can send all of the raw footage from the event, and I honestly didn't care that much about not giving the raw footage to her, and I told her that usually I charge a bit extra for the raw footage, but if she leaves me positive reviews on Google, a positive review, I only ask her to do that, I will be more than happy to send her the raws. And guess what? She replied saying, I'll do that, and my best friend will do that as well. And then as a result, I got 3 reviews. But in some cases, I asked the same my clients to do the same thing, and I never hear back from them, and I just let it go. It's not worth pursuing in the grand scheme of things. Grand scheme of, I don't know why I'm having trouble with this phrase. Grand scheme of things, you just do your absolute best, and you just treat it in a way that, if it happens, it's good. If it doesn't happen, it's whatever, move on to the next client, and you will get your reviews if your work is good.
So proactive management of expectations, make them aware of the fact that this is kind of part of your business, something that you do. And then just a brief reminder within a couple of weeks, if they haven't already chatted with you about the idea of leaving a review. That's good. What percentage would you say of your clients end up leaving reviews for you?
I wouldn't know how to answer that question. I would say 1 in every 3 clients leaves me a review.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's even that, I think, is more than most photographers are used to getting. So everybody listen in and take a cue here from Misha. You mentioned that you've only ever had 1 negative review, and maybe we can talk just briefly, if you don't mind, about how to handle a situation like that. Do you have some recommendations for our listeners?
Yes. First, you get a bottle of wine and cry all night while getting drunk. I actually have one of my work friends. She lives in Colorado. She got a negative review on Yelp, and she has expressed the exact same emotions I have when I got the 1-star review. I thought I wasn't good enough. I thought I'm a crappy photographer. So basically, my self-esteem just plummeted all the way down, and I thought I wasn't good enough, and I was thinking about quitting. And it was really early in my career when I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know I wanted to concentrate on weddings, and I just did some kind of an event. And in the end of the day, what you want to do if you got a negative review, 100% you want to reply to that review and kind of state your case, because if they're leaving a 1-star review, chances are they're going to write an essay stating why they believe that you got a bad review. And people typically don't read the whole thing. And I would say your response should be somewhat short and sweet, but it shouldn't be 1 sentence. It should be maybe 1 paragraph describing your point of view without pointing fingers. Only talk about yourself. Instead of saying, Nathan, you hired me and you told me to do this. Say, I was hired to perform this job, to come in at 5 p.m. I don't know what, you say, even I'm not perfect, I would say, just talk about your point of view and just let it go. Because in the end of the day, I've had people who reach out to me and they say they hire me because of how many reviews I have, and they say that they have seen that negative review and they think that that person is a bit ludicrous, because some of the things she did say did not make a lot of sense to me. But once again, I completely understand. At first I didn't, but now I understand her point of view. She was upset because she had expectations. The expectations have not been met for one reason or another, and that was not my fault. In this case, it wasn't, because I have over delivered in every single way. I showed up super early. I gave her more photos than I promised, and she still had a bad time with me. And that person was a millionaire, and she asked me for a $300 refund. So that already, well, once again, I'm bashing. See, this is what you should not be doing. You should not be saying bad things about people. I guess I'm still not completely over the experience. And one thing I will tell you, that's all right. Just live through your feelings. Don't hide them, because then you're going to have a nervous breakdown. Don't ask me how I know that. Well, actually, because I had lots of nervous breakdowns throughout building this business. But the best thing you can do is to, when you get a negative review, reply to that review in the most neutral way possible and forget about it, and concentrate on building positive reviews. Because what ended up happening, that a lady left me a review on Thumbtack, and my perfect 5.0 star rating plummeted to 4.8 because at that time I had like 10 reviews. Yeah, just one. Well, you may think that's not a decision maker, but it actually is in some cases. 4.9 star, or like average review, and perfect 5.0 average review can be a difference maker for some of your potential clients. So forget about that negative review after you reply to it, and concentrate on building positive reviews. My goal was to get back to that perfect 5.0, and finally I got back there maybe like a year and a half ago or something like that, and I don't even think about it. This is the first time I thought about it in a while. But actually, I watched a YouTube video where another photographer was describing his negative review experience, where a client left him a negative 1-star review, and he did the same thing. He left a neutral response, stating his case, stating that from his point of view, he's performed the absolute best he could have, and it actually helps him to get new clients. It actually makes him more human. It actually shows people that there are imperfections, but he is working on those imperfections of his business, and making himself only better. That's a marketing strategy or a sales strategy, I don't remember. If people have a negative experience with you and you improve, chances are much higher they will be your loyal followers. I've read it somewhere, or one of the gurus said that, but I find it to be the absolute truth, because lately I had a somewhat challenging experience with one of my clients where I delivered a film to them and some of the footage was missing, and I couldn't find the footage because I thought my videographer did not record that, and she got a bit upset about it. But then miraculously, I just kept digging and I found the footage. I inserted the footage in the final video, and as the result, she left me 2 5-star reviews on different platforms, and we're meeting up for a cup of coffee. Chances are pretty high if she or her friends or family will need a photographer and videographer in the future, she will recommend my brand, simply because we had a challenging situation, and instead of me just saying, well, you get what you get, deal with it. Right. I actually decided to improve on it and offer a good experience to the person, because once again, I own a customer service business, and if my clients are happy, chances are much higher that the word of mouth will travel and I will earn more business in the future.
That's good. That's a good recommendation all the way around. And it's funny too to think about how, yes, I understand how a 1-star review can affect your perfect 5.0, but then it also, there's perspective there where people see that literally every other review is 5-star. There's this anomaly of an individual who's complaining about your services. They're probably more apt to think that that person is a little bit crazy for suggesting that you offer a terrible service when everybody else is saying it's so wonderful. So we do need to keep things in perspective as well. And I think that's a good reminder. The last question for you, though, is about how we actually leverage these reviews? And I think it's almost a rhetorical question at this point. That the word you mentioned to me actually before we get started was the word autopilot. These reviews essentially do the work for us as business owners. But I'm wondering if you can just comment on that a little bit more detail. For those listening in, they're like, okay, Misha, I hear you. I hear the experience that I need to create. I understand how I need to ask my clients to leave these reviews for me. How do I now go leverage those reviews to get more business? What would you say?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. How can photographers ultimately leverage these reviews for the sake of growing more business? Because I'll tell you, Misha, again, I say you're an anomaly not just because of the number of reviews that you've gotten, but even your focus on reviews. I'm not sure that every photographer is as focused on getting reviews as you are. So the question I guess that photographers would have is, how can I actually, if I'm going to put this effort in, how can I leverage these reviews to get more business?
Gotcha. Just like you said that I run those reviews on the autopilot simply because I don't have a specific way of using them. I would screenshot the reviews, post them on social media once in a while to kind of build that credibility. But that usually these reviews are a secondary decision maker for potential clients to book me. They look at the reviews, they see the crazy amount of reviews that I have, and it gives them the confidence that I'm not going to run away with their money first. And second, because that is a legit concern. Nathan, you have a birthday party coming up and you've never hired a photographer, and there are a lot of scammers. People may take your money and then just never come, and what are you going to do? You're going to chase them over a couple of $100? I wouldn't, because I value my time. That's why I would, and most people wouldn't do that either. So they want to make sure whomever they're giving their money to will actually show up, and not only show up, but will do a good job. And then they see a crazy amount of reviews that I have, and they feel much more confident in my ability to deliver to them. So I put the reviews on the autopilot. I honestly don't do too many things with them. I honestly don't even reply to the reviews. I have replied to maybe 100 reviews total throughout the 3-year period or 2-year period. And people tell me, hey, that's very important for people to see that the business responds to the reviews. And I agree with them. That's not my strength. That's not something I want to do. I'm terrible at copywriting. I'm terrible at writing. And me typing the same thing, thank you for your review 100 times, is just too draining. So I just leave it the way it is. So if that's your strength, do that. But one thing that I think you will not be able to do with this process is to hire somebody to get those reviews for you. I mean, if you have somebody who runs your SEO, perhaps, but they have not worked with your clients, they have not experienced what your clients are like, they don't know what your clients' desires are like. Maybe if you have a marketing team that works for you, somehow you can come up with a process where the marketing team requests reviews, so you build even more reviews and build even more credibility. But in the end of the day, I would say take a couple of seconds to write a message to your couple and remind them to leave a review for your business. But I deviated from the question. Your question was, how can I leverage the reviews to earn even more business? Once again, it's an autopilot. People just read the reviews, they see the number of the reviews, and they feel much more comfortable talking to me, especially on Thumbtack, where people value their money more than who they work with. They want a photographer. They don't know about quality media weddings necessarily. They don't want to do a lot of research. Money is their priority, and they just pick somebody who charges a reasonable rate and who is highly rated, just like we all do with any other businesses. Even when we grab dinner, I find myself doing that. I find an Asian restaurant, and guess what I do? I go on their Google page, I read a couple of reviews, and I also check out the photos to see what the food looks like. And that's what my potential clients do as well. There was one thing I wanted to mention. One way you can leverage reviews would be mentioning that you have a lot of reviews during a phone call with your potential client. Okay. They may ask you a question. I don't even know how I would put it in a sentence right now, but probably if they're still not sold by the end of the call and they need a couple of days to think about it, maybe I'm a bit over budget or whatnot, I'll just tell them, listen guys, take all the time you need. I understand that I'm a bit over your budget, but I do offer a quality service for an affordable rate, and it may be worth for you to spend a couple hundred dollars to go with somebody who you know will do a good job. And if you still don't feel confident I'll do a good job, just go on my Google page, go on my Thumbtack page, see what other people have to say. If you want, I would be more than happy to give you a phone number of my past client whom you can call and ask directly what their experience with me was. And that's basically it. That's how I would probably come up with a nicer way to close this sentence, but that's what I basically say to once again reiterate that I do have a big following in the South Florida area, and that they need to put that in consideration. With that being said, if you have a lot of reviews, that does not guarantee business. You still have to work hard on other aspects of your business, like the quality of your work, the delivery, the customer service. I know a photographer who may have about 50 reviews on Google, and out of those reviews, 3 are 1-star reviews, and he's making double the revenue of what I make per year. So once again, I have a direct competitor. They're a top wedding photography and videography business in South Florida, and my assistant, he works with them as well, so he gives me the little scoops. And when I work 1 wedding a weekend, he says that they work 6 weddings a weekend, and they have less reviews than I do. So once again, having lots of reviews will not guarantee business, but it will help you in the long run, like SEO would as well. And once again, I didn't say that, so not once again, but reviews somewhat help with your Google rankings as well. One thing I did not mention, when I deliver photos and videos to my clients in the email, I mention once again a request to leave a 5-star review. And typically, I don't know if it helps these days or not, I ask them to leave the name of the venue and the type of the service that I offered. For example, Vizcaya Museum and Gardens wedding photographer. And I request them to type down this sentence in the review. Most people don't, because they're just as lazy as I am, but some do, and I want to believe that that helps me to improve on Google and to be more visible to people who Google wedding photographer near me.
Well, and I appreciate you sharing your perspective on all of that. One of the things that stood out to me is you talked about this one other business in particular that has all of these 1-star reviews or less than 5-star reviews. They may have higher revenue than you right now, but it seems to me that your focus on customer experience and the resulting 5-star reviews, you're setting yourself a really healthy baseline to build a bigger business in the long run. Because the reality is reputation gets around, especially in 2023. I mean, you can't hide, right? If you're providing a poor experience, that word is going to get out in one form or another, whether reviews or social media or otherwise. And I can imagine that it would come back to bite that business. Whereas you may not have as much revenue as that particular business right now, but you're creating a really solid, healthy baseline for your business and the customer experience that you're providing. And those reviews mean so many different people that are excited about your brand, who will talk about your brand into the future. And I think that's where the opportunity lies for you to become even bigger than some of these other businesses. So I think that's really a great reminder, a good example for our listeners.
Yep, absolutely. Just keep working on your reviews. If you're not getting reviews, don't stress out. Just keep sending reminders to people to leave good reviews. If you have built good rapport, if for some reason you have a negative review, reply to that review and just forget about it, or use it to your advantage. Use it as your experience to become even a better professional. And yeah, I agree. I think this helps you to build a long-term profitable business, having lots of good reviews.
Great way to sum it up. Misha, I really appreciate you making time to come on the show today. For those of you listening in, make sure to go to QM, as in Quality Media, qmweddings.com, and also follow Misha and his team at Quality Media Florida on Instagram. We'll link to them in the show notes as well at bokehpodcast.com. Thanks again, Misha. Really appreciate you adding value to our community.